I saw a movie, no wait, I saw a show, so you don't have to. And you probably don't want to, because you'll find that at the end of the day, you're gonna want those 2.5 hours of your life back. And it's not because it's terrible, because it's not. It's just not particularly good. It's well below great, and we'll get around to the rating at the end of the video, along with some special thoughts. But on that note, here we go! So we'll start at the beginning, but a couple of warnings here up front. There will be some minor spoilers, and for those of you who had no plans on watching this show, that might come as some relief. And you know what? Maybe it does. The show itself, again, is not what you would expect. It delivers something that we've come to expect from Marvel products. It's a bait and switch, but not in the normal way, because you see, we knew that this was going to be a girl power effort. You could tell they advertised it that way, but not in the way that you would imagine. And the story doesn't follow anything that you were sold. You were sold an idea that Echo was this person that was going to have a power set similar to Taskmaster. And while to some extent there is a little of that, that's not really what's going on here. This turns into some supernatural thing, a spiritual thing, somewhat aligned with the Indian tribe that Maya, or Echo, is actually a part of. And it becomes more of an exploration of the spiritual connection that she isn't aware of, starts to become aware of, and then is told what it is and is very aware of. And when we get to the end, and you're going to want to stick around for this, there's some ridiculous. But first up, we'll start at the beginning, episode 1, or I guess part 1 of the weird movie structure, I don't know. But episode 1, part 1. Echo is put in a position where she loses a family member. In losing the family member, she also loses use of her limb. She becomes injured. And it would have been fine to have that kind of loss early in life the way it happened, except there's like already a big ask. I'm being asked to accept that a late model vehicle that has no glass pieces on it that wouldn't be broken into a zillion pieces somehow is the reason that she lost her limb. And you can watch that for yourself, decide for yourself, but didn't make a lot of sense, especially with how things went down. Now, she already didn't have use of her hearing from the very beginning. She was born that way. And the actress that plays her, well, the young actress that plays her does a wonderful job. The older actress that is Maya, or Echo, does a serviceable job. Not stellar acting, not terrible acting, but, you know, does what needs to be done. And that makes a lot of sense, because I do believe, and if memory serves, this is her first shot at acting. It sounds remarkably similar, and again, I could be wrong, maybe she's in something else, but it sounds remarkably similar to what happened with Miss Marvel, because she had never acted before either. It sounds like, once again, this particular actress fit a set of immutables that they really wanted to cast around. So here we are. But back to the first episode specifically, because again, it is focused on one person in episode 1 for the most part. You're gonna find yourself going, this is really uneven storytelling. It jumps everywhere. There are cuts all over the place. Very strange slow motion. Oh, well, that's going to be a theme through the whole show. Lots of slow motion and lens flares. Yay. But it doesn't feel good to watch the first episode. The story asks you to fill in the blanks, the gaps in between places. A few of them are filled in later in other episodes, but by then they're really unnecessary. Those kinds of flashbacks aren't servicing the story in any way. And the jump cuts between the different parts of her life are, well, annoying. Again, if the film's asking, in this case the show, is asking you to fill in the blanks, you might feel exhausted after the first episode. That's a lot of imagination and work on the audience's behalf, who would just prefer to watch something that was escapism, that didn't require that kind of work. But that's the least of this show's problem. The other one is something that I think Critical Drinker calls accommodating stuntmen, and there are an awful lot in this, a ton. The power required for people to move other people around like that, especially dead weight people, the 200 plus pounds, you're not doing what's happening in this. And she's not really imbued with superpowers. This is a street level character, but somehow she's chucking dudes around left and right and doing some pretty ridiculous things. And well, you get to a point where she does this train thing. I think it's the first or second episode that is unbelievable. Here, like, somebody would die. They would break multiple bones. This is not something that's going to happen. I think you're going to hear that complaint a lot. Anyway, after you're through the first episode, you start to realize that the structure of the episodes is actually based on women that came before her, that give her power or various powers and strength, tools, gifts, whatever they're called. And the names of each episode is essentially the names of the people that came before her, including her mother. Interesting way to tell a story. And these people come to her in these episodes the closer she gets to home and the closer she is to real danger. You see, her and Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, are basically now in a war by the time you get to episode 2. And that progresses rather slowly and accelerates, towards the end in episode 4 and 5. But there's a lot of like action, and then interesting reaction. There are multiple times when Wilson Fisk just pulls back. It's kind of like a Bond villain doing the wrong thing, telling you how the plan, and then walking away, and then Bond escapes and all that. There's a lot of that weirdness going on. You'll see what I mean if you watch the show, which, again, I don't recommend. By the time you're into the 4th episode, everything's set up. Ridiculous action segment happens. Conversation happens. A crazy ultimatum is put in place in an effort to make peace. And you get to the 5th episode, and that's where things just get bonkers. And you realize that not only were you bait and switched, this is a story that's going to appeal to a certain age female. It's not driven by the men at all. The men in this are portrayed as just a complete goofball. And an older, I guess, uncle person just is indecisive about what team he's going to play for. I mean, he just doesn't know if he's going to be on Team Maya or Team Fisk. And with all that said, obviously at the end, you know what he's going to do. Everything in this is rather predictable in that way, but what I couldn't predict was the thing that they kept hidden in this bait and switch, which is all of this spiritualism that's thrown in with these ancestors. I'm going to spoil this, so if you're just this is a small spoiler. At the end, she uses the powers of her spirits of the ancestors to imbue her family members, all the women, of course, with their powers as well. This is very the Cancer Thor Love and Thunder. This is very much like that idea, where now, with no training, no experience at any of this, you now have 3 women kicking the pieces out of a bunch of dudes. It's got to be seen to be believed, and I still wouldn't suggest you see it. Blah. Ultimately, in the end, you get a positive result. Not surprising. You get some strange things. There definitely is a mystical mind meld. You'll figure out what that means later. I don't know. I left feeling like I wasted 2.5 hours. Had this been sold the way it's supposed to be, as like a strange Hallmark sort of spiritual fantasy film, maybe people would appreciate it more. You definitely wouldn't have as big an audience. But this targets the audience I guess they were aiming for. And this is a problem that Disney Plus has been having. You're not appealing to the men, are not going to be interested in this. Women are, a particular age woman, an older lady, and that's about it. For my friends who are American Indian of different tribes, they probably are going to take some offense. Some of them will, I know for a fact. In fact, I know one definitely already has, because I was texting back and forth with him. And it would be less offensive if it wasn't actually his tribe that they were portraying in the show. But I don't know, the stereotypes really crush it. But let's move away from the fact that Disney Plus is going to be a dying platform and move, which is obviously why they've got Project Hulk and they've got to marry Hulu and Disney Plus together. We're going to talk about that next week, so I guess you have early warning. You're going to come away with probably the same rating I do, or many of you will. We'll give it a rating of 4 out of 10 is like a 2 out of 5, except I still think that's too high a rating, especially in my star rating. Like a 1.8 star is probably more fair. There's not a lot of entertaining here. And literally you can get up at any moment and dismiss this, which again is another thing that Disney's been suffering from, not just in their shows, which are not good, but in their film projects as well. I mean, we already have talked about how much money all of them lost, but that's neither here nor there. This is not a film I would recommend. This is a film I wouldn't recommend you see. I wouldn't pay money for it. And again, I keep saying film because it's 2.5 hours of my life I won't get back, but this show is not something that I would recommend anybody invest any time in. So my recommendation is wait to hear from some more people, and they'll probably all tell you, find something else to watch. Watch Ocean's 11. Watch the first Avengers movie. Watch Captain America, the first Avenger. Watch Iron Man 1. Watch Iron Man 2. If you want to watch good Marvel, you're going to have to go back to like Phase 1, because that's about all there's left. Anyway, I saw a show, so you didn't have to. Let me know what your thoughts are, if you've seen this, or even if you haven't, down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya!